So
And
education was
she
big.
was an Evans.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Her grandmother was Evans, or her mother?
Her mother was Evans.
And what did she go to college for? What kind of profession?
She, I don't know. She took a general education problem, of course. They were all tremendously well read.
Books were a big thing.
Yeah.
Now, how did your parents meet?
I really don't know exactly. They were same neighborhood, small towns.
Did you have aunts and uncles?
Oh yes,
So family was always a
that's
big
right.
thing.
Well, that's right.
Now, were you born in a home or a hospital?
I was born at home, and the house was built in 1832. It was the same home that my father had grown up in. After his mother died, he lived with an aunt there, and and in fact, if we still own part of the place, I still have 100 acres down there. And the only land granted was from signed by Martin Van Buren when they got the land from the Indians.
Did your parents tell you much about their childhood?
Oh yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What kind of life did they have?
My father had a rather adventurous life. You know, he liked that deal walking all the way up from Texas. He had a friend who walked up to it, and he really should have been a historian. And he had a memory that was out of this world, and he could recite. I still remember a lot of things, a lot of stories he told me. I'm dyslexic, and I remember making book reports on the books that I never opened. And I could tell the story, you know, I could remember it, and he'd tell me the story.
Now, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had one brother and two sisters.
What were their names?
My sister's name was Virginia and Lucy, and my brother's name was Hugh.
And where did you land in the
I was the youngest.
youngest person there? What's your earliest memories of growing up?
I remember when I was very, very young, less than 3 years old actually, and we were at the country store, which was about a mile from home, and they had a little bag of sugar. I guess it was a 2-pound bag of sugar or something like that, and I carried it home.
Now, were you an inside kid or outside kid?
Outside.
Were you into sports much?
Well, we had horses, and I had a pony and 22 rifle, and had a lot of fun.
So you lived out in the country.
That's right.
And did you have a best friend in those days?
Yes, I had two good friends, Bill Rett and Sanford Hardy. Both of them were pilots in World War II, just like I was.
Now, how was your life when you got into school? Where did you go to school?
I went to a country school there. They had 4 grades, had 4 rooms, and they had 10 grades in 4 grades. And so the classes were very large. It's very small. In my class, there were only 4 students. There were 2 or 3 boys and 1 girl.
Did you take the schooling pretty good?
Well, I had trouble in school because I'm dyslexic, but I made out.
Did you have a favorite teacher?
Oh goodness, yes. I had my 5th grade teacher, that taught the 5th and the 6th grades. She found out that I was real good at math, and the other two boys were both straight A students, absolutely straight A students. Sanford had read all the books of knowledge by the time we got to the 3rd grade, and they would go up to her with a math problem and say, can you help me with this? And she said, why don't you let Guy help you? And that inflated my morale tremendously. And when years and years later, when my wife wanted to go back and see some antebellum homes, I called my sister who lived in New Orleans and said, well, why don't you set us up a tour of Vicksburg and Natchez, and let's go and show Ann some antebellum homes. And and she called back and said, you know, the best antebellum homes are in our hometown. And she said, those are tourist traps. And they had a pilgrimage down there, and we went down there to that. And I said, if we were going to do one thing when we go to Columbus, Mississippi, is we're going to go to see Miss Louise, who was that teacher. And at that time, she was 96 years old. And we went to see her. Her memory, and she lived to be 105.
Now, when you were
She
young,
actually is a real distant cousin of mine.
oh really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Seems like almost everybody has a favorite teacher.
that's right.
Now, were you a reader much with dyslexia? It must have been tough.
No, I didn't read.
Now, did you have hobbies?
Oh, your hobbies, you know, you're a country boy, you know, he's always got you hunt rabbits or squirrels or, you know, you could do all kinds of things, swim the river. Yeah.
How about, was your family very religious much?
We went to church.
And
I don't think we were over religious, but the old church there was, it was back from the 1800s too. And it was still in good shape until about 2 years ago, and one of those storms down there took it down.
Can you describe your relationship with your parents? Was it a good relationship?
It was excellent. But the only thing that they couldn't understand, you didn't understand dyslexia in those days. And they couldn't understand why I couldn't spell.
How are family holidays in your family?
Good.
Was family a big thing?
Yeah, family was a big thing. We had a dairy, we ran a dairy, and so every day we had to work, you know, and so that's a 7-day-a-week deal, so we're pretty tied down.
So you couldn't take vacations?
Yeah.
Now, after...
And then and also another thing, that was during the Depression when I was a kid, and times were tough. Money was short.
Can you think of things that happened during those times that really made you aware it was tough?
Well, everything reminded you of it. I mean, but it was a good time in one way that you really learned the value of people, you know, and you really learned the value of being able to get along without things. You didn't have to go to movies and like that. And my favorite thing I would do is my father had a couple old friends and we'd go to, you know, down to see him, say on Saturday night, and they'd sit there and talk, and I'd sit there and listen to them.
What did you guys do for fun? Did you go to movies once in a while? Was radio big or what?
Well, we didn't even have a radio, and we didn't have any electricity. We didn't have any running water.
Did you see hobos?
Yeah, but Columbus is not a railroad town. But the railroad was over there about 6 miles ago. I saw hobos.
So the hobos pretty much stuck to the rail.
That's right. They stay around the railroad.
Now, what year did you graduate high school?
1939, and that was in Texas. I went to Texas and lived with a cousin out there.
Which part of Texas?
Houston.
That was a big city.
That's a big city.
So that was
So I went from that. Well, actually, that was only 10 grades for Prairie School, and then I went over and lived with a cousin who went my junior year in high school. And then I went out to Texas and had my senior year in high school. And I had a mentor, so to speak, that wanted me to graduate from high school out there so I could go to Texas A&M and have a working scholarship. And I managed to go to Texas A&M, and I made 28 cents an hour, and I cleaned up the dormitory, and I made my room and board. And room and board and laundry was $18.50 a month. And I'd saved up $300, and I went to Texas A&M. and I borrowed the money for the second year, and paid for it while I went to flying school. Okay.
Now, when you were growing up, did you have your own bed or did you have to share?
We had our own beds.
And was the house a 2-story or 3-story?
It
Or
was 2 stories.
and when you were young, what was your first job and how much did you make?
Well, my first job was on the farm, and then a neighbor would hire people in the summertime, and I drove a hay rake and raked up hay, and I made 35 cents a day.
Do you remember how you learned how to drive and what was your first car?
The first car I drove was a Model A, but we had Model Ts too, and I drove Model Ts and Model A's.
Did you have pets?
I learned how to ride. I learned how to drive when I was 11 years old, and I was driving the school bus when I was 15.
Did you have pets around the home typically?
We have dogs.
Did you ever have any childhood illnesses?
Yes, we had all the childhood good, measles and all that stuff.
Do you remember ever getting in trouble as a kid?
I guess we all got in trouble.
No.
Nothing serious.
When you were young, who were your heroes?
I guess my father was. I didn't have any particular.
Now, in those days, people learned about what was going on around the world through the newspapers
That's
and
right.
radio
That's
and
right.
things like that.
That's right.
Were you up on what was going on around the world?
Oh yes, we had a paper.
Was your father or mother political at all?
No, but we're very interested in politics. Very interested in politics.